Why Vladimir Putin's India visit is significant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting Russian president will on Monday focus on terrorism as a common threat to both countries and the region. Russian President Vladimir Putin's brief but important visit to India is being watched by the world. Putin, who has not traveled much outside Russia during the pandemic, is making the trip to Delhi at a time when the pandemic is still raging in his country. He has only traveled to Geneva for the summit meeting with US President Joe Biden. This is his second visit outside Russia this year. India, however, has a historical relationship with Russia, spanning over the last 7 decades. While the relationship has stagnated in some areas and atrophied in some other, the strongest pillar of the strategic partnership is of the defense basket. Although New Delhi has consciously diversified its new purchases from other countries, the bulk of its defense equipment is from Russia. The estimates say 60 to 70% of India's supplies are from Russia, and New Delhi needs regular and reliable supply from Russia for the spare parts from Russian defense industry. In fact, Modi has held informal summits with only two countries, Xi and Putin. At this time of tension at the border, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has discussed the issue of defense equipment supply and purchase of new systems, like the S 400 missile defense system, with the Russian top brass in the military and government. So, flowing from the understanding that Russia has leverage over Beijing because of recent proximity and New Delhi has had a history of robust bilateral ties with Moscow, the present outreach is significant. The two sides also have a shared concern of terrorism as the security situation emanating out of Taliban ruled Afghanistan remains challenging. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting Russian president will on Monday focus on terrorism as a common threat to both countries and the region. Top government sources told the Indian Express on Sunday that the two sides have worked very closely on the issue of threats of terrorism, terrorist financing, flow of arms and drugs trade, and that is expected to be reflected in the joint statement after Putin meets Modi. The top government sources pointed out that Delhi and Moscow have worked together on at least three major multilateral groupings: Russia, India, China, BRICS, and SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the conversation will be carried forward at the bilateral meetings as well. In fact, to strengthen the bilateral mechanism, a new format, the 2 plus 2 ministerial meeting between the foreign and defense ministers of both sides, will also take place on Monday, ahead of the Putin Modi bilateral summit in the evening. So far, India has 2 plus 2 ministerial formats with only the Quad countries, US, Japan, and Australia. Officials said that in the recent Russia India China meeting, India had negotiated hard on including a reference to the Financial Action Task Force. The two sides are also stepping up defense cooperation. Ahead of the summit, India has cleared the long pending AK 203 Kalashnikov rifles deal worth nearly rupees 5,000 crore for production of over 5 lakh such rifles at Korwa in Amethi by an Indo-Russian joint venture. On cooperation in areas of defense, sources said the two sides are set to focus on co-production and co-development of military equipment and platforms. Thank you.